Hey everyone, what's up and welcome back. Imagine you sit in the cutoff and a button player behind you has the tendency to VPip around 40% of his hands and 3-bet 20%. Do you have any idea how you should respond if your opponent then goes for the 3-bet and the action folds back to you? What hands should you fold, call and 4-bet against an extremely wide 3-betting range? This will be the topic of today's lesson, and you're gonna learn exactly like when to fold and what hands to fold, call, or 4-bet here. A couple of episodes ago, we already looked briefly into this topic, and we learned that if the button has this tendency to VPip extremely wide, cold call 40% and 3-bet 20, that we should adjust from the cutoff by open raising much tighter and only open raise 14.8% of all the hands, which is a massive difference in comparison to our average open raising range from the cutoff, hovering around 30% of the time. So today we're going to learn about how to respond if we face a wide, aggressive 3-better who's playing a 3-bet strategy of 20%. Okay, let's first of all compare the overall strategy here. If we look into a GTO setting, and we open raise in the cutoff and the button 3-bets a normal frequency here, we are supposed to fold 41% of the time. We're calling 45% and we're 4-betting 14% of the time if the action comes back to us. Now, how does this change if we play against a wide aggressive button? So in this scenario, I told you we are open raising 14.8%. So we did adjust correctly pre-flop. Now the button is 3-betting 20% of the time. He did also cold call 40% of the time. But we're going to look how to respond against that 20% 3-bet. So if the action then comes back to us, we are actually supposed to never fold, which is a massive, massive difference in comparison to the GTO outcomes there, which is 41% folding. We're calling 52% and we're 4-betting 48%. So a massive increase there as well. So how does this range exactly look like? And how should we adjust when we think about different categories of hands that we are open raising? Let's look into this topic specifically today and focus on that group. So if we open raise in the cutoff, the button goes for that wide aggressive 3-bet and the action comes back to us, we're going to first learn more about our high pairs. No surprise, of course, aces will always be a 4-bet against the button here. Kings are in a GTO setting only 4-betting 17% of the time. If you want to learn like what kings there are, pick up the PLO trainer, train yourself. It's very easy to understand which kings are being 4-bet. But here, against a very wide button, we are actually adjusting massively by almost 4-betting all kings. As you can see, it's 83%. Some kings aren't going for the 4-bet, but calling. These are the most disconnected kings, like some of the weaker ones with either two low side cards that are disconnected or a lower suit there. But on average here, you can see that almost all kings are going for that 4-bet. So a massive difference here. So make sure to utilize that strategy. And if you play against a player like this, play aggressively here because you're simply dominating him so often here. Queens, 6% in the GTO setting here, but 56% in a setting where the button is 3-betting 20% of the time. If you look at jacks and 10s, 4% in a GTO setting, but 32% in a setting against a wide, aggressive button player. Now, the first two categories, aces and kings, they are very obvious, and you can simplify it to either always 4-betting them or just call a couple of the weakest kings and you'll be fine. But it's more interesting to look at those bottom two categories, the queens, the jacks, and the 10s, because the differences are massive there, and we're playing a lot of these hands still. So what hands are we 4-betting here? Let's first of all look into the queens. So we know that we are 4-betting 56% of the time here with all queens. You can see it here. Now, if we break this down a little bit further to make it better understandable for ourselves here, we can see that double suited queens are being 4-bet 83% of the time. I would say you could simplify it to 4-bet all of them, but there are some specific queens that are extremely disconnected here that generally don't want to go for that 4-bet, and those are better off just calling. But as you can see, almost all queens are going for the 4-bet if double suited. Ace, queen, queen, 90%. I would just simplify it to 4-bet all of these combinations against a player like this. And then we have the other queens, which are the single suited queens. 19% of the time are still being 4-bet. And these are the ones with 4 high cards without an ace, hands like king, queen, queen, jack, king, queen, queen, 10. Those kind of combinations are going for a 4-bet here, but for the rest, these hands aren't. So by separating them into different buckets here, double suited hands, double suited queens, queens with an ace, and the other ones, we can break it down better and make it more understandable for ourselves. And here you can see the separation and the differences. So double suitedness and holding the ace or holding the ace are extremely strong here and will make us lean more towards 4-betting. If we don't have either of those components, we are generally more going for the call here. If we look into jacks and 10s here, we are 4-betting 32% of the time here. And again, if we break it down, double suited jacks and 10s, 4-betting 59% of the time. And if we have 4 cards that are 7 or higher, we are basically always 4-betting these double suited combinations. If you have ace, jack, jack, or ace, 10, 10, we are 4-betting 59% of the time. And if those are all 4 Broadway cards, so if the 4th card would be a king or a queen, we are also always 4-betting them. So simplifying it with these rules, the 7+ rule, the 10+ rule makes it much easier for yourself to implement. All the other jacks and 10s are never being 4-bet here, and you can just simplify it to call them and not 4-bet them. So I hope this breakdown makes it a little bit clearer for all of you. And let's move on. 4-betting low pairs in this scenario. So we do open raise some of the better connected low pairs, some double suited ones with an ace, hands that can continue against an aggressive 3-betting strategy. And here we can see that low pairs, of course, are deuces until 9s in the GTO setting. We're basically never 4-betting them 1%. And against a wide bottom player here, we are 4-betting a couple of them, 9%. And it's interesting to look at what combinations these are. And they hold a couple of components in their hand. In addition, they are either double suited and have an ace. So hands like ace, king, 5-5, ace, 10, 7-7, ace, jack, 9-9, ace, queen, 8-8. Like these hands are strong enough to 4-bet against an aggressive 20% 3-betting range here. But also double suited ones and strongly connected do go for the 4-bet, like these double paired and strongly connected combinations like 8-8-7-7, for example, is a good example here to 4-bet. But also some strongly connected ones like king 10-9-9, jack 10-9-9, like these combinations do play well enough. Okay. I do want to also mention here that setting up the simulation for this pot here, what I did also is I removed the fold versus 4-bet. So if we do go for the 4-bet, our opponent is never folding. And that is because players who have the tendency to 3-bet extremely wide, VPIP 40%, like they don't fold versus 4-bets. So remember that this strategy is already applicable to players who also don't have a folding range there. And that is important to understand, so there are no adjustments there anymore. Let's look at the double suited rundowns here that we are 4-betting in this scenario. So if we think about ace high double suited rundowns in a GTO setting, 37%. And against this wide bottom player, we are 63% of the time 4-betting. If we don't have an ace, it's 18% in the GTO setting and 21% in this specific scenario. So no real difference in the second group. This group is very similar still. There's a little bit more leaning towards like king and queen high rundowns in comparison to the GTO setting where we are also 4-betting quite a bit of like jack, 10, some 9 high double suited rundowns with a gap in there. But here we do have a bit more king and queen high rundowns. And with the ace, like we are already 4-betting quite a bit, but we extend this range slightly to 63% here. And the combinations of hands that belong in there, like they are high card heavy. So we prefer to either have like 3 Broadway cards or 4 Broadway cards in our hand. And also we 4-bet very, very aggressively if we have 4 cards that are higher than the 5, basically. We are then 4-betting 86% of the time. Some combinations of the high card heavy hands, ace, king, queen 3, ace, king, jack 6. A couple of very similar combinations also occasionally go for the call. It's pretty much a mix there, here and there, but we do play this group aggressively and often go for that 4-bet. And that is because we are dominating so many combinations of his 3-betting range. He's 3-betting a lot of single suited rundowns, a lot of low double suited rundowns, low pairs. Like his 20% 3-betting range is very, very wide, and these hands do have a lot of potential and can heavily dominate those kind of ranges there. Okay. Lastly, let's look into some of the single suited rundowns that we did open raise, now face this aggressive 3-bet range of 20%. And here we can see that if we have an ace high single suited rundown, we never 3-bet generally against an average normal player. But if we play against this wide opponent, we are actually 4-betting 16% of the time. If we don't have an ace, we never 3-bet in either of these scenarios. But the top one there is definitely interesting to look into, and we are 4-betting some of the very, very strongest combinations here that do play well against the 20% range. And these are hands that are single suited to the ace, that only have 2 of the same suit. So as you can see here, for example, ace 9 of hearts or ace king of hearts, and then are all 9 or higher. So they don't have cards like a deuce, a 5, an 8 in there generally. So we go for that 9 plus range of hands, and then you can simplify if you have these 3 rules to 4-bet all of these combinations. Okay, let's wrap it up, guys, with the final takeaways of today's lessons. I hope you enjoyed this one. I think it's very interesting and a different perspective on the situation here. Again, we're playing against this crazy wide player, and we should adjust here. We never fold versus a wide 3-bet here out of position with a 20% 3-betting range. We 4-bet aggressively in this setup. As we know, we 4-bet all the aces, obviously, but then we 4-bet most of our king-king. We 4-bet around 30 to 55% of our queens, jacks, and 10s, depending on the side cards. Double-suited rundowns with an ace are increasing in value. They can dominate more often, and they 4-bet therefore more often. And the best single-suited rundowns even are also being added to our 4-betting range. Okay. If you have any questions, again, make sure to use the comment section below the video. Hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you for watching. See you next week with another episode of the Crushing Small Stakes PLO course. Take care. Bye.